Welcome everybody. This is B.
And
I'm
B.
Hope everyone's having a solid weekend. So today we're going to talk about the system with education. So B. So right now we're in some tough times with our education system, and I got a few words I'd like to say about this. So for one, I think the education system is really flawed in the sense of preparing these young, bright individuals pursuing the next level when it comes to a collegiate education. So what I think they should do in middle school, like this is like kind of like a timeline what they should do. So in middle school, they should talk with the students to emphasize what they want to do trade-wise. Not really look for like a certain degree in a sense. Like if you are interested in like a STEM field, like kind of like that, you know, the sciences, engineering, mathematics, and like the biological sciences, and like, okay, cool, that's what you want to do. And then once you go to high school, this is like all hypothesized, it's all theorized. So there'll be a high school, so say there's a high school, like with 4 or 5 different departments. So the first department will be like STEM oriented. The second department will be like fine arts. The third department will be like like finance, and the fourth will be like so forth. And then within that school, they earn college credits. This is like mandatory by every education system in America. So they're mandated to gain those college credits so that once they go to college, they have more college credits, less student debt, and they'll be far better off when learning a skill, so therefore they have the experience rather than just a major to back up their resume.
Okay.
So that's what I think is going on right now.
Okay.
That's what I think they should do.
No, okay. So I'll go off of that then. By the way, your phone was kind of going off right there if you want to quickly check it, because I don't think it was started or anything. I think you missed it.
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah, no, secondly, I agree and disagree. I agree that the school system now is atrocious. It is. It's atrocious. I'll be honest. I'm a parent.
Yeah.
I'm a parent. I got kids in school. All my kids are in school, and I'm not a fan. I am not a fan.
Public schools?
Of what?
Public schools?
Yeah, because my kids are not in private school. So luckily I get to talk about public school only. Actually, me and my wife have talked about private school, but it's kind of expensive. It's just a little expensive. But we've actually thought about like taking money away from what I was going to do for investing, which would be probably a different subject we'll talk about. To put that into our kids' investment for their future, which I think a lot of people do. So that's what I was looking at trying to do. All right, so why do I think it's horrendous? Like you're saying, I don't think it teaches them critical skills. Well, not just critical skills, critical thinking. To me, that's the big thing, is you can learn a lot of these things, but it's the critical thinking aspect in which is lost. Most of the time it's, hey, do this report, do it this way, do that, and there's not really a question that's addressed. And I don't think the question should be addressed in a homework assignment per se. It could be part of the homework assignment, knowing that you're going to be asked this question, but why don't they do more critical thinking of the first couple months you're analyzing something, and in the end you have to then identify the answer, like what is the result of these two chemicals, right? Do these two chemicals work? How could we try to develop a different way of doing this with chemicals, right? Or what kind of chemicals are gonna be pollutants if they are put together, which ones are not, and make these kids actually go through and do these things. But instead it's just that they're just spilling the information out. The kids are just writing it down, and therefore we're losing a lot of the kids' focus and their critical thinking, like I was saying before. And in the end, the kids are just lost. I'll be honest. So my second oldest is honestly struggling in math because they come home with homework. And if anybody out there knows any different, please let me know, because I feel like we've been to 2 different schools with the second oldest, with pretty much all of them. And having to go, the homework comes home and their assignment is one math equation.
That's it?
One math equation. That's it. That's all it is. 5th grade. One math equation. and
I don't remember doing that.
has
when I was
difficulty, and they have difficulty doing basic math, because whenever you do one math problem, you're not building the foundation. Because in the end, repetitiveness really helps build that foundation. You
Yes.
need that in the earlier grades. And honestly, these kids don't get that anymore, because everyone has these good idea fairies that come out and they say, hey, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. This is better than just doing the math that all of us grew up with. And so they learn this new way where they like have to take the number 98, right? And they draw like a 4-box thing. And they put 90 on one side of the box, and then 8. And then they add them together and then put them back together. I'm like, why don't you just do 98?
I was actually taught how to do lattice.
Really?
Yep.
I'm pretty sure, everyone that knows normal math is going to be able to pick that up easily. To me, though, it's a waste of time,
Because
a waste of energy, and the kids then don't, honestly, my kid doesn't understand it.
And doesn't learn how to
He doesn't,
actually- yeah.
exactly. So whenever I get like 15 plus 6, honestly, it should be 20, 15 plus 7, say 24. It should be 21 right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
Even though I make a mistake, it's like, oh shoot, I've identified it immediately.
Yeah.
He's having difficulty sitting there thinking about what is this, and he's having then to process it. He wasn't able to do that because of these new methods and new ways in which they're doing it. And to me, that is failing our kids. So they don't get the basics in elementary school. And then whenever it moves up to the advanced levels of high school and middle school,
It's more stuff that's added on.
they keep
and wastes
adding more,
time.
exactly.
Which-
But they don't
yeah.
have the basics, and so then we can't move forward. So that, to me, that's the fundamentals in which we're just failing our students across the board. Now moving into what you're talking about for college and stuff like that, to kind of just wrap it up so I'm not talking for much longer.
You're
I've
good,
been
you're good.
talking for a while. I don't like the idea of giving the kids focus on college and giving them credit just so that they're not paying for college. Honestly, I don't agree with how the colleges have just thrown up the cost, mostly just so they could have bigger, better schools,
Schools, yeah.
pay the Nick Sabans of the world $8 million a year. What for? You're a college coach, you should be making, pennies. That's why the NFL exists. If you want to make a ton of money, you can go to
The next level.
to the private organization and get paid there, not at a school. But that's, again, a different topic. To me, college should stay as is. It should still be a little expensive, because it should be the thing saying, hey, if you want to come to college, it's going to cost some money. And there, to me, if a high school student is able to get college credits in high school, then to me that college isn't worth it, because that means that college is teaching at a high school level. Granted, there's always the Dookie Housers of the world. Now, granted, of course, fictional character, but those kids that are gifted that can learn at a
Surpass
college,
the-
they can surpass. But those are 1 to maybe 2 per school on average, and even some schools don't have any. But other than those, nobody else should be getting college credits. But the problem is, to me, the whole a third to half the high school senior class has got 12 credits graduating out of high school. And I disagree with that. That, to me, that tells me that the college isn't on par where it should be. So it's like, well, now you're paying tons of money for a college that is at a high school level, which is wrong as well, So what you should do is college price should come down a little bit, right, to equal up. And they should give no credits to high schoolers, because it's like, look, you're coming to college. This is the big boy place. This is where you're coming to actually learn. And if you're not going to put in the effort, then maybe you don't need to be here. Exactly. These kids get these college credits in high school, which then gets them to go into college. It's like, oh, I'm going to owe less. Well, guess what? It's still expensive as heck.
Anyway, yeah.
And they're going to go. And how many of these students, they transfer, they change majors, so they're kind of starting all over again.
Distractions, too, with
Distractions. They're out on their own. They're changing schools sometimes, so now all this stuff transfers over. So in the end, no matter how you kind of change it, you're still building all this up. And I think if you just kind of made that break, you're then actually doing these young students, a service by saying, you're coming, it's going to be expensive. You're not going to get any credits beforehand. And you better be ready to actually to learn, because if these kids are expecting it to be in high school because they got how many college credits in high school, they're expecting to kind of do the same thing, but with more freedom. That's the only thing they're expecting, is just more freedom to be crazy, instead of saying, hey, this is actually going to be something. And that actually makes the colleges then put more effort into being a high-level organization and actually teach and actually make sure that whenever you have a degree from that school, it means something.
Okay, yeah, I get that, but at the same time, though, we got to make sure these kids are not piling down on this student loan debt, because that's the main issue when it comes to like, medical students or pharmaceutical students or anybody that's, pursuing like a higher level of education. And like, I do understand where you're coming from, but I think at the same time, like, well, these kids are being taught earlier how to be organized, how to maintain their composure and discipline earlier on. They're like, okay, like I get the vibes. I understand this is what it takes to be a college student. They learn that earlier. They learn that discipline, and then once they go to their collegiate years of studying, they kind of understand it. They grasp the idea of what it takes. And I do agree with you, like in the sense of like, okay, like this is like the levels we need to maintain and keep it like that. But at the same time, I think the student loan debt is just piling. It's crazy. Do you have any debt, for example, or?
So whenever it came to, but that's where I kind of disagree with you. Is that I already stated, it could come down a little bit because they are. I think it is being overblown by at least a little bit. That's what I'm saying, a little bit. Like I told you before in a previous video, I'm not about just like cutting it in half or whatever. Incremental changes to see how it's going. So yeah, I believe that it can come down a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything. As a matter of fact, it should help the university to actually shave off some of that fat that's just hanging around it anyways. But I had student loan debt, tens of thousands of dollars. I paid it off in 5 years.
That's pretty good though.
I did, because I put my effort into it. Because it's like, look, I'm not going to sit around here paying the minimum balance. Because if you pay the minimum, my minimum balance was like $200. Exactly. It was like $217, $270 a month. And so if I would have paid that, I would still be paying today. And then, of course, like you said, the interest is just takes off, and you owe so much money then. And these people wonder, well, where's all this debt? Well, pay it off. You learn this stuff in college. You should know how to take care of your finances then a little bit better. I'm not saying you have to be an expert or anything, but maybe that should be something in college.
Your skills should be improved.
Exactly. It should be improved where it's like, hey, I got this college debt. Maybe I should put some effort into taking care of it instead of putting this effort into just putting my money elsewhere. I mean, we're so focused on the little trinkets of the world, right? I want a nice car, a fast car, the nice phone, all the wants. Needs. People buy them and they're like, oh, but I have all this debt and I can't take care of it. Well, maybe you should take care of your debts first. Oh, yeah. That mindset, and I think that's really what kind of captures most people. Sorry, Kim.
No. I'm glad that you said that too. I think like society now is just. I'm not going to rephrase what you said, but they're just focusing too much wants, like they want to buy these cars, nice Gucci clothes and stuff. But it all begins with that mindset, that mindset of being thrifty and knowing where to put your money. So when you're 20 to 30 years down the line, you won't have any regrets when it comes to. But okay, like actually, I kind of like, since you emphasize it, I'm kind of like brainstorming a little more.
Yeah.
But also too, like. So, all right, so you said you partially agree and disagree. So whenever we're speaking about these, like how I was hypothetically saying, like these high schools who have like 5 different departments focus on a specialized field, do you agree with that? Because I think that's, like I said, like it doesn't have to be college credits, but these guys still need to learn these skills. So therefore, to get an actual experience and not, a BS college class is just teaching them how to type a paper. Or
and to me, that's where AP comes into play, right? You have the normal college, then you have the AP, which is supposed to be like the prepping for college students or whatever it is at whatever school, right?
I got something about AP, but go ahead.
Yeah. I'm just saying that as in like the normal, and then like the AP classes, which are elevated, a little harder, right? Which everyone wants to be college credits. Like again, you and I disagree with that, which is kind of where we disagree a little bit. So to me, I do agree that there should be different departments, but at the same time, that kind of already exists a little bit, right? You have wood shop, but not everywhere, because you also have to have resources for those things, right? So depending on the resource that you're able to, a 5A school that graduates 500 to 1,000 students a year is going to have more resources to have a single shop class compared to a small school of 24 kids that graduates 1 to 2, right? Yeah, inside of a rural community. So unfortunately, it just, in the end, it comes down to the inequalities of life, right? I mean, everyone knows that, okay, it'd be nice for that school of 24 to have all the different options that a large 5A school has, but they just don't. So you got to do the best with what you got. So I like the idea of the different departments, but at the same time, I think it should be stuck in classes instead of departments. The one thing I don't like the idea of, which is what Germany does, is everyone takes a test. I think my buddy was telling me about this. They take a test, whether in high school or maybe halfway through high school, which tells them where they are in the, and don't take it
Career
literally
field?
in the career field per se. It tells them where their strengths are, and then they're kind of put on that track. It's like, oh, you want to be a doctor? Well, sorry, it says you're going to be a plumber. So like this guy, he's then put on this career field to be a plumber, even though he wants to be a doctor. And I like the idea of the United States, like, yeah, it says that you'd probably be best fit for a plumber.
ACT does that.
But if you're going to be a doctor, if you want to be a doctor, then by all means, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. It is your life, and it's not for me to hold you back. So I like the idea of that. Now, I like the idea of maybe doing that, like you said, like you have the woodworking. Maybe you do actually like maybe at classes. You kind of like how home ec, right? You have home ec where usually it's like baking stuff. I never did home ec, but maybe there's like a home workings thing where it's like you're going through and you're doing some plumbing and you're doing some just normal, basic, blue-collar jobs, because then if you get out, you're like, I've seen this before. I think one class in high school, to be honest, should be home finances. Should be home finances, or just finances in general. I mean, whenever I was in high school, I took Algebra 2, Geometry, Trigonometry.
Maybe statistics,
calculus. All that stuff, right? But everyone leaves there with trigonometry and calculus, but they don't know how to manage their own checkbook. Well, sorry, their own bank account. Checkbooks no longer exist. Well, for the most part. But either in the end, though, a class like that, all those like, well, I'm in calculus. Why would I have to take? Well, maybe because you need that. High school is supposed to set the kids up to live life, not to be the college grad. They're here, so you get that fundamentals. Again, it's the high school fundamentals for life. It's advanced from elementary, but it's still the fundamentals of life, of, finance, working around the house, oh shoot, my toilet's busted, what can I do about it? Oh, I did this in high school. Hey, home ec, I know how to cook something, I can do something. You're right, maybe that. Hey, let's work on some cars. Well, these cars are about 10 years old, but they've got a lot of the same kind of look nowadays. We don't have cars with gaskets and stuff anymore. Everything has all the electronics. So that stuff I think would work out. I don't think you need a full department for it. Maybe one department to cover all that aspect. So whoever's in charge of that department says, hey, are the kids getting this to make sure they're learning? Are they getting this? Are they getting this? And maybe there's like a well-rounded that for that one department. I think if you did a department per, I think it'd be too big. But I like the idea of it like that, which like I said, it kind of already exists, but I don't think is fleshed out as much as it should be.
No, yeah. Like my school was kind of like that. Like knowing the two notable departments were like, with auto tech, where kids would learn how to like change like their tires or to change like a coolant reservoir, and there was another one was just a cooking class. That was it.
Yeah.
So I think, I get what you're saying, but I think it should be more universal within the nation. But I do have one more question before we sign off here. What do you think of students learning American Sign Language?
Man, it's funny because my wife wants to learn American Sign Language.
I do too. I only know like a little bit of it.
It was like B, right?
D.
So the thing with it is, my big question is why?
I don't know. It's just common courtesy too. I think a lot of people struggle with like I'm 50-50 with it, but like I understand like the concern. But I think it's just good to know because some people. I mean, we have many deaf people in this in the country too, and like it's kind of embarrassing to see somebody like in a restaurant they can't speak and
they're just kind of. My wife's brought this up, which is why she wants to learn. She's like, how many people are out there, and they could be saying like if this room was just a restaurant. And they're just sitting there, they can't talk with anyone. They just sit there with nothing to do and stuff because they cannot communicate at all. Even someone who speaks Spanish might be able to find some other Spanish English speaker or something like that. Something. But whenever you just can't speak at all, I understand that. The thing I come across is just like, all right, are you bilingual?
No, I'm not.
Are you fully bilingual?
No, I'm not fully.
Okay. Were you bilingual at all leaving high school?
I don't know.
So the question I have is, what are the kids going to learn then by forcing them to learn American Sign Language? If the interest isn't there, to me,
I don't think it should.
they're not going to do it.
I don't think it should be forced though. I think it should be
An elective?
an option. Yeah.
Okay.
Like how Spanish is forced. I don't think that should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I get why it's being forced because Spanish is going to be the new. It's going to be the new language coming soon. But I think it's like me, for example, like how you said, are you bilingual after leaving high school? I wasn't bilingual because I really didn't care for it because I was just forced every time. Like now, other languages like Arabic or like Polish or something else like that. Like I'm like, well, hey, like this is a new playing field for me.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
It's more on my own pace and like going back to like you were saying, like with these students like being forced to like write like reports. I think the education system should have like influence on like the direction they're going, but also too like the students will learn critical thinking by applying it like within their own pace.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing where it gets lost is the stuff that's forced that doesn't have to be a part of requirement. The requirement for life is you got to let these students have their interests. I like the idea of the American Sign Language being an elective. I do. Like I said, we've talked about it. I think it would be great. As a matter of fact, I have someone that I know that if I knew sign language, it'd be awesome to be able to do that with them and give them the ability to talk with more people than who I see them speaking with in sign language. So, but that's also myself being older, more mature, wanting to learn, wanting to to grow myself. Exactly. And a lot of young students, a lot of young people don't have that as well.
Mindset.
Exactly. So it's so I like it as an elective. I think that I don't mind that at all. And maybe there might be some schools with it already.
Awesome.
I think that'd be great.
You got anything else, B?
Yeah. I guess my last question to you, and my one question to you, because you've been asking me questions this whole time.
Cool.
Is all the stuff I've said, I've said a lot about electives and stuff, and you started off just with your quick statement.
Yeah.
From what I've said, what would you change to make high school or elementary school better? Yourself.
Elementary or
high school. I mean, you've already said out a couple other things. Is there anything else, or maybe something that I brought up that made you think about anything else?
Yeah. So like with. I think like in high school, like when it comes to like more like finance, for me to be like particular, I think they should have a class that talks about the stock market, which could include like what's the giant company
NASDAQ?
Yeah, it's NASDAQ. They have a dictionary or a glossary like all of the financial terms.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like not millions of them, but they're like hundreds of them, and I didn't learn this through high school. I learned this through social media. Luckily I was blessed to see people like this who care.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, let me just research this. I'm like, wow, like I know a lot more doing this on my own. I piqued that interest. I think more people should learn those terms and stuff. So when they're investing in the stock market, like, oh, okay, this is not what I'm looking for.
Exactly.
This is the next route. One thing I think that needs like a specialized class maybe that could be tied is like learning like the different like bonds and different kind of stocks. Learning how to trade forex and stuff properly. I mean, forex is really risky. You can't make any money if you're not being scared to do it. Of course, a lot of the stuff going on is part of inexperience, like these like young day traders and stuff trying to learn, and that's what's causing the market to kind of change around a little bit.
Yeah. Well, maybe that is something that can go into the home finance class that we were talking about.
Cool.
So, either way, no, that's it. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe. Make sure to leave a comment. And other than that, that's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got too.
Have a good one, guys.